it's not necessarily a monologue because there's not too much to say. But, when I think about what my guy, Bryce Young, my favorite college football player ever, a guy who led a magical, unexpected, mystical, fairy tale drive to win against Auburn in the 2021 Iron Bowl that we thought was totally lost.
Roll Tide.
And just a great player. Roll Tide, roll. Gets traded up, becomes the sacrificial lamb for the Bears to build their current roster. And the Panthers trade up to get him. They traded their star wide receiver, their first-round pick, and 2 second-rounders. And was that it, or was there another pick as well? Okay. But they traded their best wide receiver, DJ Moore, first-round pick, and they didn't know it was going to be the number one pick. They didn't know it was going to be the number one pick, but they had traded what ended up becoming the number one pick, 2 second-rounders, one of which got used on a top corner, the other of which will very likely be pick 33 in the 2025 NFL draft. And so here we are, a year later, a year and 2 games later, benching Bryce Young. See, this is what the Panthers did. They took a fresh, brand new number one pick quarterback and just everything you'd ever want. But the problem is they traded all of their resources to get him. So they get the quarterback, they get the shiny new toy, and then they send it outside, but there's no umbrella for it, gets covered in rain. No protection, no wide receiver, nothing to keep Bryce Young dry from the torrential downpour that will be your rookie season in the NFL. That'll happen to anybody. And if you're not CJ Stroud and you don't have Laramie Tunzel, a Hall of Famer, blocking for you on your blind side, and, solid offensive line play, elite wide receivers that, chicken or the egg on whether CJ Stroud elevated them, but Tank Dell and Nico Collins are both legit dudes, way better than anything the Panthers have got. And somehow, after all that, Bryce Young is the guy to blame when you haven't given him jack. And you haven't even given him a chance to figure out this offense. He wasn't even allowed to play in the preseason. You didn't even give him a chance to play in the preseason. This goes up to David Tepper, because I don't think that Dave Canales is so stupid as to bench a guy that didn't have a chance, that had 2 games to barely play, to get stomped by the Saints, where he didn't have a chance. He was having to run for his life the entire game because they knew they had to pass the ball, because they couldn't even, start as a competitive team. The offense immediately has to pass the ball and becomes a pass-reliant team. Fast forward to next week, and maybe Bryce Young could have had a better game. He's in his second year as a quarterback with a terrible team. He's going to have growing pains. What this reeks of, and I don't think Dave Canales did this on his own, I think David Tepper is once again getting greedy, getting impatient, committing malpractice as an NFL owner, and just putting his thumb on the scale for a new quarterback. He wants to see something else. Maybe he's tired of being embarrassed by Bryce Young. You're the reason. You're the embarrassment, David Tepper. And when Bryce Young gets traded to the Rams or whomever for a value pick and then ends up figuring it out under a competent organization, maybe you'll see that you were the problem and that it's not Bryce Young, who's had minimal control over his NFL career and has had the worst circumstances. I'll say it. Teams that are bad get the number one pick. He had the worst circumstances of any number one pick in a long, long time. So the guy never had a chance. Roll Tide, Bryce. We're going to get you out of Carolina as soon as we can and try to get you to somewhere that has a serious franchise. And let's just say, I think that the Raiders and Max Crosby are going to take over this game and take Andy Dalton's head off. So they might need to put Bryce Young in just as in terms of an emergency backup, because I think the Raiders are going to dominate them.
Yeah, I
And
think
that's my
this is
rant.
one of the games. I couldn't agree more. I think this is one of those games where the Raiders do cover that spread 5.5 points right now. Take that bet for
Oh yeah.
sure. Um,
As
the
soon
thing
as
that
okay, I mean, I could keep talking. As soon as the Raiders take a lead in this game and Andy Dalton has to pass, he's going to get his head taken off by Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. It's going to happen.
probably, yeah. And I
I'll
just
let you
don't
continue.
understand how you invest capital, like significant capital, in guys like Leggett, who I think he's going to be a real deal receiver, Jonathan Brooks, uh, and multiple other guys, um, and just kind of let it burn out before it even begins. I mean, Jonathan Brooks was expected to return in a week or two. Why would you not wait and see what it looks like? I don't get it. I think you're right.
What
I
is
think
the
it's
rush to
Tepper.
play Dalton
Right. I think it's
other than
you
Tepper?
want to say their argument would be, well, we don't want to lose the locker room, and we see something in practice where he's not seeing the field correctly. But again, I think Jonathan Brooks would help a lot with seeing the field well, maybe even cutting the field in half for Bryce Young. Leggett is a monster. I think anybody. I mean, look at Baker Mayfield and what he's done with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Sometimes that's all you need is time to grow and develop a relationship with those kind of receivers. Deontay Johnson, you traded significant capital for Deontay Johnson. You traded a good, solid corner for him, and he's just pretty much left out to dry. So everything that you did in this offseason was to support and protect Bryce, and to be done with it in after 2 weeks it's unexplainable. It really comes down to David Tepper 2 days before the draft saying I want Bryce over CJ Stroud, even though the whole organization wanted Stroud. And I think he's just having buyer's remorse at this time, and he's just trying to cut his losses. He's tired of seeing it. But I do think it's extremely unfair, and it's a waste of a season. I think this is worse for the locker room than just letting it play out. I mean, you basically
Agreed.
forfeited your season without seeing what you had. I don't get it.
Well, and keep in mind that how many starts are we on with Daniel Jones now? He's pushing his 70th start in New York,
Yeah.
and we still haven't seen consistent, great offensive play outside of relying on Saquon Barkley or great defense. Which, yeah, you know who Bryce Young's Saquon Barkley was? It was the Saquon Barkley from hell. It was Miles Sanders. The
Yeah.
what's his name?
You missed
Doodle
on
Bob
him.
Saquon Barkley. Yeah,
You missed.
the other Penn State running back. It just goes back to, and we could talk about CJ Stroud too, where if they had taken CJ Stroud, I think CJ Stroud would be struggling. He may not.
They don't make the
maybe not as
playoffs.
much, but no, they don't make. I mean,
They don't make the
CJ
playoffs.
Stroud doesn't automatically make Adam Thielen a good number one receiver. Like, I'm sorry, but it just doesn't. Bryce didn't have the weapons to work with. I think that the Panthers season is even more of a disaster than we thought it was going to be. And yeah, I think Tepper is getting the bed. Yeah, he's going to sleep in the bed that he made.
And honestly, I hope we take this number 33 overall pick. We trade back
Here
for
we go.
like four or five guys, and we just get just a infinite return on investment for this trade. I hope we get five. Hope we get 5 Pro Bowlers with this pick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tyreek Stevenson, Darnell Wright, those are both two very good players. Caleb Williams, we hope, is going to be a very good player. And yeah, we still have that 33rd pick. Could trade back. There are a couple different directions. It gives the Bears a lot of flexibility in the draft that I bet the Panthers wish they had. And I don't know what the Panthers think they're going to be able to do in this draft. If you have the number 1 pick and no answer at quarterback, you don't just get to choose to punt. You're going to take a quarterback because you can't guarantee. And Panthers fans are like, no, we want to trade back.
Right.
No, you don't get to guarantee yourself another chance. You take the quarterback at the top of the draft. You just have to. And it's going to be what happens. You think that Tepper's not going to do that? Like,
right.
Of course he's
and I got to
do
be
that.
honest.
Yeah.
We have to be honest, too, about this class of quarterbacks that are coming in. Like,
right.
Is
like,
this
what do you
the
expect
year?
to be the answer?
Is Carson Beck with the sprained AC joint in his shoulder? Is he the guy now? Is Quinn Ewers? What
is Shedeur Sanders?
Is Shedeur Sanders the
padding
guy?
his stats, Colorado State, and up 20 in the fourth quarter.
So exactly on so many levels. Like, you could have waited. Is Bryce contract? He's got 3-4 more years. Isn't the
he
next
got drafted
big
last
class?
year.
The next big generational quarterback class is 27 or 28. Everybody knows. What are you in a rush? Is Canales worried about job security? I do not understand. I can't.
I think that, like you said, the only thing that makes sense is if Canales were worried about his job security, yes. But the only reason for that being that Tepper is telling him what personnel decisions to make, who to start, who to sit. And like you said, this reeks of David Tepper just having his fingers all over this and just mucking everything up for the organization, as he's done since he acquired it. I mean, I think Panther fans wouldn't argue that David Tepper has kind of stepped on his own foot just at every turn as the owner of the Carolina Panthers. So, things are looking bleak for them, and hopefully the Bears get a very good pick at 33.
Yeah.
Is what it's looking like.